So I thought, oh, something's not right here. Ran back in the living room and seen the male who'd walked in the house.
I think it's at that point the reality of what had just happened started to kick in.
I thought they were all punches at this point. There was one in particular that I know was a stab because it made me scream.
So we've attended the scene. We've actually seen Mark. However, he has absconded from the address and he can't be located anywhere. Sorry?
Right, okay, so what we're going to do for the information that we've got at the minute, I think we're going to put him on as a high-risk missing person. I've got 2 units travelling now, we'll be there shortly.
Gone to ask him some questions about how he is, and I've noticed he's very irate, walking around the house, drinking lots of water.
At one point he's walked past me and he's probably been within arm's reach, trying to keep a little bit of distance because I don't know what he's thinking at this point. And he just looks at me dead in the eye with like the evilest stare I can ever remember. And it just felt like he thought everything in his life that was wrong was my fault.
We've sort of, me and PC Gray have like withdrawn to the hallway.
And we received a covert point-to-point radio message to ask us to make our way there because his behaviour was a bit up and down.
Just heard like a taser holster click open, so I thought, oh, something's not right here.
Within seconds my hand was on that taser, but he managed to pull it out of its holder and we both had hold of this taser.
At this stage I didn't know he had a knife, anything like that, so I've just sprayed him with my barber spray.
It does distract him, but that's about it. I managed to be able to get the taser back off him, so I gained full control of the taser. So we are wrestling with him, defending ourselves, and I think that's when I got cut across the thumb. I think it was a defensive wound at that point.
Initially it just looked like he was sort of grappling with PC Gray, but as I've sprayed him he's taken a step back and we've both noticed a knife in his hand.
I can feel several punches to my legs, right and left. I can feel them going up to where my belt was, possibly around my back at the bottom of my stab vest. But I thought they were all punches at this point. There was one in particular that I know was a stab because it made me scream.
And we've basically just been fighting for our lives.
Got myself back up, at which point he's already up and running around again. And he runs at PC Hanley, who's backed off at this point. And I can see again, he's got something silverish in his hand and he's swinging it at PC Hanley. Don't even have a second to think. I shoot the taser again. The problem was there was obstacles between me and him, and when he's gone down, I think them obstacles have kind of caused an issue with the taser again. And within seconds, I knew it wasn't working. You can hear a different sound. I was tired at this point, and I knew PC Hanley would be as well. But thankfully at this point, I think Mark Fox was also tired, and he's actually run to the other side of the room away from us.
I think when we were about maybe a minute from the house, that's when my colleague's red button was pressed and all hell broke loose.
More units there with a knife! Go close!
My hand was basically covered in blood, it was pouring. I just remember looking down on the floor and seeing, I'd only been stood where I was for maybe the 5 seconds that we had at that point. And there was already a pool of blood on the floor. and I kind of just realised I've been cut, I've been stabbed, and I remember shouting up on the radio that I'd been stabbed. As I was saying that in words, I remember feeling the blood pouring down the back of my leg, and it clicked. That wasn't a punch, he stabbed me in my leg.
I think I've been stabbed in the leg as well.
I think at that point, I actually went through a few things, and I actually thought I was going to die at that point.
He's got a knife! Mark, it's alright, Mark!
And then I saw PC Dak come into the room. I remember feeling ecstatic that there was more officers coming, and then the dread hit me. He's already stabbed me, he might stab other officers, he might hurt somebody else. I don't want him to hurt anyone else. I don't want anyone else to have to do what I'm dealing with now. More officers started coming in. I remember seeing PC Crosby, PC Reddington, PC Bartle.
I knew at this stage that my colleague had been stabbed, and that the male had a knife and he was holding a relative hostage. He had his arm around her neck and was holding the knife to her throat and pressing it into her skin.
We have to make sure that she's safe, he's safe, and we're safe. I remember just saying, Mark, I'm not coming anywhere near you. I just want to help you. And I thought, this is the strangest, surreal moment, because you've just stabbed me, but I still want to help you.
We gave him some commands to put the knife down, and I recall several times using his name, trying to make a connection to get him to put the knife down so we could resolve it without any bloodshed or anybody being injured.
At this point, I think the room's now full of spray because it's been sprayed so much, so officers are coughing, everyone in that room is coughing because it's hard to breathe. He goes on another frenzied attack trying to hit other officers.
And he was waving the knife around, he had it in one of his hands, he was slashing, stabbing, and at that point all I could do was fend him off using my baton.
He's narrowly missed several officers. I know PC Dak and PC Crosby nearly got hit in the face with the knife.
And I remember at that point just seeing the silver blade coming at me, both overhand, in a slashing motion as well. It caught my jacket a few times, caught my stab vest a couple of times. He then went off to one side of the room, bit of a scuffle in the middle of the room, and he ended up behind the couch, where he was effectively cornered behind the couch. And again, his only way to get out from behind the couch was to come at me. At that point, I thought the only option was to go for it. I had a stab vest, his relative didn't, nobody else did except the cops in the room. So, if anything, I might have got slightly injured, but I hope that my stab vest would do the job. Took him by the waist, and it's at that point when I felt him stab me in my ribs, in the area of my chest.
Within seconds, second officer on, third officer on, ended up with like 5 officers on top of him, 2 kind of trying to hold his arms down, someone on his legs, someone kind of trying to keep his waist down, someone trying to grab the knife. He was still struggling, he was still struggling to keep hold of him.
I felt the blow, I felt the stab, and at that point I knew I'd been stabbed, but I didn't feel the pain. The adrenaline was flowing too fast, and the only concern at that point was to control that knife. So as I'm lying on top of him, I start to feel the throb from my side, and it's at that point he started to punch us in the side of the head with a fist with the knife in that hand. At that stage I didn't know if I was being stabbed or not. All I could feel was blows to the face, to the side of the head, and I remember in a kind of slow motion format thinking, I hope that hasn't stabbed me, because I didn't want a stab wound to the head. I do recall I said I think I've been stabbed, at which point the suspect was inches from my face. He spat in my face and he told me that I hadn't been, and then he started to shout for help himself.
At which point I remember an officer came to me and told me that they really needed to get me out of that house. And they had something in their hand, I think it was a towel, and they were trying to wrap my hand up. And I just turned around to them and went, I can't leave until I've got that knife. We need to get that knife. And then PC Crosby all of a sudden kind of launched herself over the sofa they were now fighting in behind, and literally managed to prise the knife out of his hands. And she just kind of stood up, held the knife in the air and shouted, "I've got the knife," to everybody.
I've got the knife! Got the knife? Yeah, I've got the knife.
I then kind of submitted to my colleague, who's wrapped my hand into a towel or something and started taking me out. Then, when it's hit me that I might survive this.
So one of my colleagues said, "Mav, you can get up," and somebody grabbed me by the back of my vest and pulled me away from Mark. I put my hand down to my chest and felt my chest, and I could feel wet and feel the blood, and I looked and saw the blood. And I remember looking and thinking, well, that's not good. And I just remember seeing blue lights everywhere. There was 10, 20 vehicles in that street. I remember a female colleague of mine, she came to assess my wound and cut my shirt off, checked that I'd been stabbed and where it was, and then I think one of the ARV officers with the paramedic kit took over and started to dress my wounds.
Under his left armpit. Just confirming we don't have any further. It's about half a centimetre in length.
Ferocious attack we've ever come across. Now we come across times where people try and attack us. People have weapons and try and use it against us.
At first I was just thinking, oh, it's just another job. But then when someone's pulling a knife and attacking you and your colleague, you're suddenly thinking, am I going to die tonight? Very scared, to be honest.
Are you sure that's me? Check it over, come here.
I think that you haven't done enough, mate.
Mate, you've done spot on. Mate, you've done everything you could.
Yeah.
Absolutely everything you could.
For me, it was very lucky. Yes, I was stabbed in a very unfortunate place. I think it missed my heart and my lungs by a matter of millimetres and just went through ribs and skin. So I was very lucky in that respect. It could have been fatal.
It's hard to explain, but when you kind of think, right there, this is when I'm going to die, like I say, a lot of things go through your mind. The weirdest moment is when you kind of accept that. And it's not that you want it, you would fight for your life, you'd fight, but you accept that that's the most probable outcome. And this calm comes over you. It's obviously your body's way to try and kind of deal with the adrenaline, the insane instant that you're dealing with at the time.
Yeah, it was very, I mean, the whole incident lasted a matter of a minute or two in real time. Everybody says it feels like a lifetime. It did. It felt like a lifetime, if I'm honest. I certainly didn't expect that to happen on that particular night.
Me and PC Hanley were there by ourselves. If we weren't there, if one person wasn't doing the right thing at the time, I think we saved each other's lives that night.
So my overall sense of this is one, firstly, of absolute pride in all the officers involved, particularly 3 injured officers. Proud in terms of their braveness. From my observation, I'm particularly concerned in terms of how more prevalent this is being seen, not just in policing, but across all the emergency services. I'm really concerned around the severity of this. 3 officers stabbed in one night is hugely alarming. And it's only right that as a service and all the other blue light services, we get the full protection from the wider criminal justice system.
Once every 4 days, I'll be assaulted in some way, shape or form, be it a very minor assault, a spit, a kick, a punch, or a lot more physical, a lot more aggressive.
Yeah, I'd been with a tutor for 10 weeks, and this incident actually happened, I think, in the 2nd week that I was out on my own. So policing was still quite new to me.
We do this job to help people. We don't do it to get injured. We don't do it thinking, tonight I'm not going to go home.
And I think the vast majority of the time, people just see the uniform. They don't see the person within it. I mean, I've got a family, I've got a cat and a dog, and I like to go for walks.
We're still dealing with the aftermath of this. It's got long-lasting effects. I mean, I still don't have feeling in my thumb. James Cook were absolutely amazing. So if they do see this, I hope that they know that we're very thankful for their help.
I mean, at the end of the day, we live with our cop family for half the year and our real family for the other half of the year. So that's what it is. It's a family, and it sounds like a cliche, but we're all brothers and sisters, isn't it? And it's great. It really is.
We're not just a uniform. There's someone's son, brother, daughter behind that uniform. Fathers, husbands, wives. At the end of the day, we're there to help and protect people.
We have our own lives, but we put that on hold for other people, and I don't think the public really realise that.
We want to go home to our families too at the end of the day.